And hold on, I'm gonna try to share the screen here, which should be up. Okay,
Great, thank you. I'm going to do the roll call. Mark Lynch,
Present.
Ray Perone,
Present.
Seth Burdick,
Present.
Charlie,
Present.
and I'm present, Fran Parks. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag
Flag
and to
of
the
the
United
United States of America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic,
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and
justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. All right. I see Mr. Foy's here, so I wanted to, I had a letter from Mark, who had a note from Mr. Foy that, he was anxious to speak to us about some Katuitt school use proposals that have been circulating the village. So, Mr. Foy, can you unmute yourself? And
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to speak. A number of Katuitt residents have been talking, and I think you saw the email that Mark sent around,
yes,
some basic preliminary ideas. And the general idea is first of all to really seek input both from you guys from the Prudential Committee and Fire and Water, and more generally from Katuitt residents as to what they would like to see done with the school property and building. We also, again, these people that I've been talking with are all residents, and I have come up with specific ideas that we think would be useful, specifically turning the site and the building into a type of community center that would be able to host all kinds of different services. And there was this kind of a short and preliminary list of possibilities there that in that email that was sent around. But very specifically, I keep saying specifically, but that is my focus, is to be as hands-on as possible. What we're talking about right now, as well as seeking input from everybody as to what might be needed. And again, there's that short list, but that included things like adult education, community garden, financial and tax advising. The Kettleers are very interested in having possibly an office or and also a museum, or what they call a museum, which would be a room or a wall or something where they could house a lot of their trophies. And that's that sort of thing. There's a whole, I mean, I have a list that's a page long of possibilities, but getting down to brass tacks again, what we've been thinking about as a next step. And of course, all of this is dependent on the transfer going through and getting everybody pretty much on board in the village. But the next very hands-on concrete task would be setting up a nonprofit corporation, 501c3, to be the vehicle for this, and to get a website going, and to, again, assuming the process continues and people are for this and agreeable generally, starting to solicit funds to enable this to actually become reality. And I can go on and on about this. I can also send all of you a much longer detailed list of possibilities and a list of things that we would need to troubleshoot in order to make this happen.
well, I'll just make you aware of some of the, once we acquire the building, the plan is to do a space needs assessment.
Mhm.
And part of that assessment will be use of the school for the district. Because the district doesn't, we don't have any offices per se. So, part of it is to look at if a section of the school can be rehabbed into being the fire station. And then the rest of the building being used for offices for the Prudential Committee, the treasurer, and the water department, and offices for the fire department. That's one thing we're going to look at. The other thing that the space needs may be looking at is rehabbing the fire station where it is, or building a new fire station. And the other possibility is just to depending upon the cost, to just demolish the building and leave it for open space and just use it as a protection for the water, because that's a zone of contribution where the school is. So
I understand, and of course, always with the proviso that the village should be really behind whatever happens to it. My understanding is that demolishing the school would cost somewhere very close to $1 million, that building a new fire station would cost a lot more than that, and that the fire department actually has property next to the fire station that it could use to fulfill its main need, which is bigger quarters for an emergency vehicle.
well, it's that, but it's also the fire station is seriously out of date in terms of the way fire stations are run today with decontamination and various other things. The other thing you need to understand is that a couple of years ago, the estimate for putting that building into working order so that people could use it was $1.3 million because of the asbestos, and needs a brand new heating system, and has no handicap toilets or good handicap access. And so there are multiple deficiencies in that building prior to its being used. So that's something.
Yeah, I think it was a bigger number. I'm sorry, I think it was a bigger number than that, Fran. But George, did you get the Habib report?
I have not seen that. I have gone through the building with the person in the town of Barnstable who is responsible for public buildings, and he was saying that the real cost would be in rehabbing the building to be a school, where all kinds of requirements come into play, and especially getting rid of all the asbestos. When it's not a school, when it's something that, for example, would be used for the summer and shoulder seasons, which would definitely not need the kind of a heating plant that it's got now, the cost would be substantially less. And in fact, the building, he said, was in remarkable shape, even though it wasn't heated last winter.
Right, but yeah.
That's correct. I thought I sent you, I will look it up. I thought I'd sent you the report, and that was one of the points I made, which is that the Habib report is to turn it back into a school, which is a more expensive endeavor than turning it into a building that might be used for offices, for example. But it is super detailed in terms of the specifics of what work is needed. I don't see it here. I won't take up our time here, but I will make sure that you get a copy of that.
Wasn't the estimate at that point 3.2 million? Was that what that report?
Yeah, somewhere
school.
between 3 and 4 million. And George, just for your background, yeah, the demolition costs were $1 million, but that was close to $1 million, but that was about a year ago. And so it would be substantially more than that as well.
Well, I think, a couple of the things you mentioned using the building for, one would be childcare and one would be senior services. And I don't think you can, have childcare in a building that's got asbestos in the caulking or other places.
Actually, what I wrote down in that email was that it would be some form of coordination for childcare services, not as a childcare center, which would indeed require substantial improvements to the building, but for coordination, that would not be the case. I was just generally really impressed with what the Barnstable town person had to say about the building, and very much impressed with the opportunities that it offers the village, and including providing more office space for Prudential Fire and Water District. meetings and so forth. I think it just could be a generally very useful possibility, and one that is only going to happen once.
Well, the other, financing it and maintaining it over the years, I'm not sure if we would need to change if our enabling legislation allows us to procure a building and then lease it out to somebody for other uses. We're not in the business of renting property. So that's another consideration that needs to be looked at.
How does it work when we rent Freedom Hall? How does that fall into, not to be, but just with that, is that not rental property for a short term, long term? Does it matter? I'm just curious as it pertains to that.
That's just for functions. It's
Right.
just rented for functions.
So
It's a
it can,
user fee. It's not even, it's a user fee for functions.
Right.
so that could be applied to school building as well. But maybe Mark could look into that if it's a legal issue.
Now,
But I-
George, I'm
Sorry.
sorry,
Yeah.
I mean to cut you off. You, Mark, then you first.
I'm sorry, Seth. Yes, we can, and that's going to be part of the process. Probably more specificity would be helpful in terms of what the hoped for use might be,
Mhm.
because it is an issue that would need to be looked at, but is perhaps not insurmountable.
Yeah, we're looking at it very, very carefully. And as I said, for example, the childcare issue would not be an issue on the basis that we're looking at it as. And I would also want to emphasize that this would not require a cent from the district. This would be entirely a nonprofit and dependent on fundraising. But we have got some people who are very good at that. And it's a town, some aspects, some parts of which are,
I think creating a nonprofit may be problematic. I think the vehicle that would probably be used if this were to come to fruition would be an enterprise fund.
well, that's something we'll look into then. We understood that a nonprofit would be the best, but you might well be right. And we'll check it out.
Well, if it's an enterprise fund, Ray, wouldn't that be the district be in charge of it at that point, the Prudential Committee?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would. It would be part of the district operations and fall under the Prudential Committee.
Yeah.
Ray, can you give us the 30-second version of why you think an enterprise fund would be more appropriate than a nonprofit?
I think there are some regulations about giving money to a nonprofit by the district, or giving value to a nonprofit by the district. I don't have it fully researched, but I did kind of stumble into that. And the other thing is that an enterprise fund would be the closest thing that I can see that would operate independently, would be self-funding within the district and be a legal part of the district. But it's going to take more research. That's just a very quick look.
I'm
Okay.
curious about the nature of the relation. What is the nature of the relationship between the Kettleers and the town? Because they're, you know what I mean? However they function as a nonprofit, and that being a town property, and they're, for all intents and purposes, the proprietor of that property. What is that? How does that work?
They
You know what
just,
I mean?
they just provide all the maintenance and upkeep and buildings for that property. They save
Right.
the town a ton of money.
Do they have, is there the contractually, I mean, I realize you guys
Yeah.
might know, but I'm just curious, I can find out, but is it a
Yeah.
contractually determined relationship that they have? It's just like a tongue in cheek, like a
Yeah, just,
handshake deal, like,
Yeah,
it just kind of
nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
evolved over time.
right, and so it doesn't have a legal precedent necessarily. It is
No.
just sort of a one-off.
No, but
That's
like,
interesting. I'm surprised that that town would participate in that for so long with it, seems like it leaves a lot of, loose ends, things that could go wrong. You know what I mean?
Saves them the upkeep.
I suppose so. Money talks. And
I believe there's a number of villages on the Cape and a couple in Barnstable that have some sort of relationship with, I thought it was with a nonprofit for just to keep a community center going. But I'll check that out. I'm happy to research that along with it.
That could be towns, not fire districts.
No,
Right.
villages as opposed to the town. But I'll check it out. I'm happy to research that.
I will as well.
Okay, thank you.
but just one, where were you going to move on? I just want to say one thing about to George about the thing. So, I think as we move forward in the transfer, we're still probably solid 8 months away from the transfer, less. I mean, we still have no specific timeline. Just a tentative timeline, possibly 6 months, possibly 8, possibly 1 year.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully less than that, Seth, but you're in the right general ballpark.
So, I mean, as it pertains to the idea of the nonprofit or alternate uses that are going to come to, that people may be interested in as we get closer to the time when we're going to start spending our money to engage in the process of planning, the sooner, if people are interested in doing this and there's a real impetus to do it, the sooner that organization is formed in whatever fashion that takes, and that a mission is determined, so that you can go into that planning process, which is going to be fraught, I think, on all sides because of all of our capital expenditures that are coming up, the limited amount of land we possess, the amount of money we have to spend, where's everything going to go, that it would be, better to have it 100% ready in a package with some money or something.
A fraught process, but I hope a positive one. We do have a Cotuit resident who's a summer resident, who's a lawyer, who's going to set up a nonprofit. Unless I hear from Ray that's just not on. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It'll happen in the next few weeks. I've already set up, had a website set up. The idea being to have something there, not as any kind of end run, just as something that is material, that is something that can offer a solid alternative if the village chooses to go that way.
Right,
So-
absolutely. I think that, if people are really into it and they really want to stand behind it, then they can have a functional plan with the money to back it up, that it may be much more reasonable, because it is going to be we can all kind of see it when this transfer does take place, based on what our capital position is in terms of all the expansion and things and the limited land. We're going to all of us be having a lot of discussions about who's going to get it, where is it going to go, whether it be fire station, water filtration, or
Right.
community center, however it shakes out.
Right.
That was the other point I was going to make, was that there should be money there too. If the village chooses to go that way, then it would be there would be donations. If it doesn't, then the donations just go back to whoever
Right.
handed them in to begin with.
Well, there you go. That was my 2 cents.
We'll need more than that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to all of you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, George.
So I'm pretty sure I sent along Carol Zace's email about questioning about district donations, possibly for the Historical Society. So I thought I would go through how that came to be for the library from the district. And which started in 1949 is when it was proposed. In 1949, there were 10,000 plus a couple of hundred, give or take, residents of the town of Barnstable. The village of Cotuit was probably about 900 people. At that point in history, there was no town library committee. There were no grants from the town to each of the libraries, which they do now. The reason our library survived was, because of the hard work of the villagers, and plus the ample donations of our summer residents. When I was little, you could walk into the library through the the main front door, and Miss Finney was sitting at the desk with her 3-watt bulb. And you couldn't breathe, much less say anything. And you just had a maximum of 3 books, and you checked them out and you left. So in Lisa, could we have the pictures? Lisa? Thank you. So this is what the library looked back in approximately 1912. And if you look carefully, you'll see a drinking trough for the horses, and there's a pump behind that. And then if we go down to the next picture. So this was the first memorial stone that was put in place in the flagpole. So in 1949, the Prudential Committee asked the district voters to pass a motion, a warrant article that would allow the district to purchase war memorials for the village, along with support for the library. That was passed by the state legislature in 1950. In 1950, the committee for the war memorials were chosen. And in 1951, the first money from the district to the library was sent, and that was $250. And this is honor roll, is what that the one on the left is. And that's 1951. So, and also along with that, and there was 2 monuments. They're now moved down to the park. Along there are 7 monuments in road squares around town. And they also purchased those. Now, I don't, so that's the reason that the library got funding, was because back in 1950, they were next, living hand to mouth. That's not the case today for the library or the Historical Society. They have certainly have large donor funds given to them. They have the opportunities for grants. The library has gone to the Community Preservation Committee for funds for their addition. And and if we changed, we would have to do the same thing that they did in 1949 if we wanted to, if the voters decided to give money to the Historical Society. We'd have to have a change in our authorizing legislation. And then who's going to come after that? Are we going to send money to the Cahoon, to the Kettleers, to the Mosquito Yacht Club, to the church, to the Center for the Arts? I think it's a very slippery slope, but mostly it's a completely different financial atmosphere than what they were looking at back in 1950. Any questions?
Not for me.
I don't think so. That's so back in 1949, that was a state authorization to allow the district to make that annual donation.
Yeah, we had to have they had to approve a change to our, it was approved May 27th, 1949. The Katuitt Fire District organized under the authority of Chapter 328 of the Acts of 1926 and Chapter 244 on the Acts of 1935, pardon me, is hereby authorized in addition to the authority given by said acts to raise and appropriate and expend money for the maintenance of the Katuitt Public Library located in the town of Barnstable within the territory comprising said district, and to raise and appropriate and expend money for suitable war memorial or memorials within the said district. And that was authorized by the legislature in 1949. So.
Thank you, Fran, for the historical research. Appreciate it. Just out of curiosity, has the Prudential Committee been donating on an annual basis since that time?
As far as I know.
To the library.
To the library?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So. So did everybody review the minutes?
I did
Yes.
Yes.
move to approve them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, treasurer.
Thank you, Fran. I sent the treasurer's report, and I think you've had a chance to look at that, hopefully. And I've gone through kind of at least I thought I had gone through kind of a rough where we are to date running the ledger. But Lisa tells me that she has a couple of significant warrants. So what I'm saying about some of the expenditures status at year end might change on me. But looking at the revenue, tax revenue is, as I said, it's currently ahead of budget. But as I look at the receipts for June, it looks like we will probably end up short of the full levy. And I'm guessing, I don't know what the last one will look like, but we should be short about $80,000. And that means we've collected about 97% of the tax levy. And that's actually the same percentage that we have for the last 5 years. So normal collections, but that number kind of jumps out at us, and particularly in comparison with last year, where we collected 99.9% of the tax levy. Water revenue.
Let me stop you there, Ray.
Yes.
Is this just a timing issue then? Do we expect to eventually get that remaining $80,000 or $90,000?
Oh yes, they won't get away from us. There's no such thing as a bad debt in the municipal world, because we have the power to levy. So we always collect all. It simply takes time, and for those people who pay late, there are penalties and interest. So we will collect that 80,000. And normally we collect, it's usually ran about, as I look back over 5 years, it's ran somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 every year that we collect from the prior year tax levy. So nothing really unusual with the status as I think it's going to end up. No different than what we've seen in the past.
Okay, I'm wondering at your note that says tax collections, all categories are ahead of budget.
As of the end of May.
Okay.
But when I looked at the June collections and tried to guesstimate where we would end up, we've only collected $20,000 so far for 22 real estate so far in June. We do have one more tranche coming from the town. The collector couldn't tell me that amount, before the meeting. But if it's like the others, we'll end up with about 97, 98% of the levy collected, and the rest we'll get next year.
Okay, thank you.
The water department is ahead of budget and will finish ahead of budget. Parsing it out, the rates part of the water department, what we pay for the water, is going to be just about on budget, maybe slightly below that. The same goes for the antenna collections and the meter collections. Levy for prior year water amounts owed was well over budget, and that brought us up to fulfilling the budget for the water department. In the fire department, we will probably finish slightly ahead. We're ahead now, and we'll probably finish that way as the end of June. And then in the other category, we have the large $106,000 FEMA grant that actually relates back to 21 expenditures, but that should give us a nice boost in free cash calculations for 2022. So overall, we're on budget, and we will finish ahead of budget given that FEMA. And looking at the parts, if not on budget, we're close to where we normally end up at the end of the year. Turning to expenditures, in the Prudential area, salary and expenses are both under budget, and the notable one there is salaries, which is particularly under budget this year. Fire department, it's going to get to be kind of repetitious. Both salary and expenses are under budget. Notably, overtime for sick coverage on the salary side and legal costs on the expense side. Now, some of that will disappear, obviously, with the two warrants that Lisa mentioned before we began the meeting. But I believe that it would really take a quite substantial hit to put us over the line in either the fire department or the water department. In the water department, again, salary and expenses are both under budget. And the key one in the water department is lower engineering project costs. In Freedom Hall, salaries will exceed budget, but expenses will be below budget, primarily building maintenance. And salaries are over because we're really getting back to the normal level of pre-COVID maintenance activity. And we just didn't anticipate that fully in the budget. The street lights, electricity is up, probably will finish just at or slightly above budget, but maintenance has been very good to us, and it is well below budget. Library was completed on budget. Debt service was over budget by the second interest payment on our new debt, which was missed in the budget construction. And I'll be curing both that, or proposing to cure both that and the Freedom Hall with a motion for your consideration. Benefits will actually finish the year under budget. The primary reason there is the premium holiday that we did not include in the budget, but which we did get to enjoy in December. Transfers were completed on budget. And looking at the reserve account, the motion that I am proposing for your consideration envisions moving 31,000 of that 45 to debt service and $2,000 to Freedom Hall, leaving $12,000 to be turned back. The next page deals with articles, and there's really nothing to report here. I'm still showing the water department security as being active when indeed it has been closed at the May annual district meeting. I just have not made the journal entries to move those funds out of the capital fund and turn it back into the general fund. All the other projects are in process. And that covers it for the operations. Are there any questions about any of that?
I have a, have we heard back from the library about, have they received the money? No.
No,
I'm gonna
I have
check.
not heard anything. I presume that they have, but Lisa, do we know if the check cleared? I'll have to check to see if the check cleared.
Because
But I'm quite sure that they got the funds.
I'm not sure of the new librarian, because actually they should be requesting that money.
So they received the money. I haven't checked with the bank to see if it cleared, but I believe we also received a thank you note with quite a long time ago.
Okay.
I will look for that, but we did,
Yeah, the
pay
thank you
those
note
funds.
is,
yeah.
I'm sure the check did not bounce, so they've got the money.
But
Oh.
I think it would be a good idea for them to make a request to us on a yearly basis,
Yeah.
like a grant,
Yes,
so that we have a record of that.
yes.
Um,
Do you want me to communicate that to them?
Yeah, please.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I do have that motion. I circulated kind of at the last moment. I
I've
have
got
it.
a copy.
I can read it if
No.
need be.
No, I think, Mark or Seth, do you have a copy?
I'm looking for it right now. I have seen it previously.
I have one. I read it. Do you want me to read it now?
Yeah, could you make that motion, please?
Sure. I move that the treasurer be instructed to transfer $33,000 from the reserve fund to the following articles and accounts for unanticipated expenses as follows. One, $31,000 to Article 12, account 01-710-020-5915-00, long-term debt interest. And two, $2,000 to Article 9, account 01490-010-5160-00, Freedom Hall wages.
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Freedom Hall. Last week we had the yearly service of the HVAC system, and that's all fine. Yeah. No, I want to discuss the projector. I've had a request that for a group that's going to be using the hall several times to use our projector. And in the past, we've asked people to bring their own projectors because 2 to 3 weeks after the projector was installed, someone tried to use it, and we ended up with a large bill to repair it. So, you know, I think we need to decide if we're going to let people use it. That will require the person that lets them into the hall opens up the supplies, the janitor's closet, so that they can get the clicker that goes with the projector, along with the connection cord to use for it, because I don't know how, definitely do not know how to use it wirelessly. Need a lesson from Paul. So I don't think that we should be giving people keys to the janitor's closet so they can get the components themselves. You know, some people get keys to use the hall for, you know, whatever they've rented it for. If it's a couple of days or they want to, like the Friends of the Library, have a key so that they can set up their plant and bake sale and the book sale. Other times, I let people in and give them instructions how to lock up the library and then the hall, and then I go back and check. But I think I don't want to see, we only have one remote control, and I don't want to see that walk out of the building. We'd have to change the lock on the ticket booth because there's some other equipment in there we don't want people tampering with. So I think we have to decide if we want to let the public use use the projector, or if we want to continue having them bring their own projector.
What is this particular event? I'm just curious.
This request is the Cahoons, excuse me, going to be using the building 4 or 5 times for scrimshaw talks, which is
Oh, yeah.
yeah, which is what the I think that's what the current display at the museum is, special
Right.
collection. Yeah.
Especially if it's a group like the Cajon that's pretty well funded and they're going to be doing it 4 or 5 times. I'm sure they have a projector or projectors they can use, and I would be in favor of asking groups to bring whatever audiovisual they think they need for their specific event.
Right. And that's the projector we use when we have a public meeting, if we have an in-person public meeting, like the annual district meeting, pull down the screen or whatever. And that's the one we're talking about?
Yeah, the one in the ceiling.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I don't necessarily think, I'm sure it was expensive.
Okay.
We don't want it to be destroyed.
Yeah, right. Sometime I'll tell you how those people got it to screw it up the first time.
What'd they do? Drag it out, pull it down out of the ceiling? And
Yeah, no, so I don't want to give anybody any ideas, so I'm telling you off air. Did you get a chance to look at the streetlight service contract?
I did. I guess I really just had 2 comments. Overall, I thought it was good, and there are a number of items or provisions in it that I thought were kind of unusually beneficial to us than you would typically see. So I was glad to see that. 2 things. One, the exhibit with basically the work they're going to do. I think it's pretty clear that they don't do anything unless they get permission from us, meaning you, Fran. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I saw that they're going to send monthly reports on the nighttime inspection. So
No, we've never done, they offer, and Siemens offered to go around, drive around at night and check out, if all our streetlights are working.
right.
But we have a very responsible public who let us know something's not working.
Loudly, I'm sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's your understanding that if you, in your discretion, want them to do that, they'll do it. But other than that, they don't do anything other than what we request them to do.
Correct.
Okay.
And-
The other thing great. The other thing I saw is I was confused about the language of 7.3, which relates to punitive damages. That says nobody gets punitive damages. I'm not sure that you can just, as between the 2 of us, say no one gets punitive damages. I guess as between, we want to ask for punitive damages for them and they want to ask for punitive damages for us. Any third parties, of course, can ask for punitive damages. We are allowed to seek indemnification from them for that kind of claim. So I guess I'm okay to let it slide, but it's not a model of clarity.
And the other good thing about, since we don't have any traffic lights, and the consensus of the rest of the people from the other towns is nobody's ever had a streetlight emergency if one was out. So if we have a streetlight that's out and needs to be repaired, we can just ask them to add us to the next time they come, and that will save us travel costs.
Yeah, I did note that some of the other districts had traffic lights, and presumably that's where the concern with punitive damages comes. It's
Yeah.
hard to imagine punitive damages involved in any kind of horrible error that could go wrong with streetlights. I don't know. People have there are many fertile legal minds out there, I suppose, but we are entitled to seek indemnification from them. So I'm okay with the contract. I think it's pretty good.
And I checked with Lisa, and I'm going to ask for her to be the contact person rather than myself. That makes more sense. So, if somebody has a problem with their street light, unless of course it falls on somebody, they can just call her if she's in the office, or leave a message on the machine, and she'll be able to get in touch with the Siemens or tell me, and I can go look and see what's actually wrong with the street light.
Okay. I'm fine with that. The contract should be amended or changed before it gets signed to indicate that, but I'm fine with that if Seth is.
Sounds good to me if it's got a lawyer's seal of approval.
Yeah.
I think we're covered.
So, could I have I'll take that as a motion. Could I have a vote on accepting these new streetlight service contract?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So anything, I understand we haven't had anything in the past month about the Katuitt School Committee?
No, in fact, Jackie, Jim and I just exchanged emails this evening about an hour ago. Our thought is we'll wait till after July 4th and prod them again for the next meeting date. We're a little concerned that our expressed concern about the oil tank issue is, well, maybe that's just a hard issue for them to figure out, but let's put it that way. So we will prod them again after July 4th weekend for the next meeting date, and try to keep this moving.
Did Mark Boudreau have any thoughts about the oil tank? And
Yeah, I mean, as basically any attorney, wants, when it comes to an oil tank, wants the other party to indemnify. Because as we've explained, it can be low probability, high damages kind of situation. But as I explained last time, the town has a possible constitutional issue with an indemnification clause, but there's got to be other ways to skin that cat that hopefully they're working on. And I'll make a note to chat with Mark Boudreau about that.
So, well, just quickly. So that was the latest sticking point, was our insistence that we be indemnified against any possible leak. Did they agree? I can't even recall. Did they agree to conduct the pressure test to be certain that there was no leak?
So no, that is something that came up. One of the problems with the pressure test, at least with the old metal tanks, was sometimes
You'll damage the tank and make a leak.
yeah, you cause a leak that wasn't there before. And the same with drilling, you can drill holes and check and see if there's oil in the holes. Seth, there was quite a lengthy discussion at the long-term strategy meeting about this. One consensus was that seemed to be that we could at least get it drained.
Right.
Uh,
Mitigate any future leak or
Yeah.
possible ongoing leak.
So I will raise that with Mark as well.
I understand, and as I said before, my only concern is to belabor this process continuously isn't going to do us any favors. I know that the leak, if it does or does not exist, as I said always though, is there a red line at which we're like, okay, that's it, we're done. Do you know what I mean? With this
You mean
transfer.
that the town might say, we're not
Well, either
gonna
one of us. I mean,
deals off?
you know what I mean? Ultimately, when it comes down to, continually, we would like to have it be one way, and we would love to have it be ironclad that there is no leak. But is there a red line that exists for them and for us that we'll say at some point, well, there is a leak, so we're done, we're walking away. Do you know what I mean? I know that it would be.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Let's see what they come back to us with.
Right.
If they say there's absolutely nothing we can do, if you're taking this property, you're taking all the risk, good luck, have a nice life.
Yeah.
Then, we need to come back to this group. And maybe, I don't know, maybe broader than even this group to
Yeah.
decide to take on that kind of liability.
We
Right.
need to have a district meeting for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's hope that the brilliant legal minds here can figure out some way to make everybody happy. I do think that both parties are interested in seeing this happen. So I have some optimism that it will.
Well, good. That's the only concern, is that at some point do we chase them off? You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
It seems
think-
unlikely, but
Yeah, I don't think that they'll just ghost on us. I think they'll say, look, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. And
Right.
yeah, I don't, it may
Well,
not
how
be their
long-
top priority, but they'd like to do it if
Right.
they can do it.
how long until the next election for the new slate of counselors, I wonder?
Okay, that's an excellent suggestion, because that was, the election is November. That was part of my conversation with Jackie and Jim today. Jessica Grissetti is reaching her term limits. But I don't know when the term
No,
ends.
she has another year. Jess has another year.
Oh, she's got another full
Yeah.
year?
Yes,
Was there the 4-year term this time, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there?
she's got another year.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good. I assume that Jessica is in favor of this transaction, although I may be making an assumption that,
well, I think the other concern is there will be 2 new counselors coming on. Because Mr. Bugner and one other counselor have both resigned. So.
okay.
I know
so,
maybe, well, it seemed like a long shot, but you never know what people are going to do. If we have a friendly council now, that
And all
We may
the
not.
counselors running for re-election might not be re-elected, so.
and it's a 2/3 vote.
Yeah,
I just worry about that eventuality. It may be, again, similar to the oil leak, not a non-issue, but I don't, why add any extra risk by delay?
Yeah.
When we,
I agree. Can I bring up a somewhat related topic, which is the objection to the space needs study report that I think was filed by Jessica's husband. The way that sits now, we can't, it's on hiatus, so to speak, with the Attorney General.
is it being litigated? I
Did
thought,
he-
I didn't know.
No,
Did Carl file a second one?
no, I'm referring to the first one.
No, as far as I know, the first one is just dead.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Dismissed.
And it's not going to start to get resolved until we have the property, which
No,
seems like,
he has no standing. I believe that's what the Attorney General said.
I remember being in an email chain about this particular thing.
Yeah,
I may be mistaken, but I thought their opinion was that it wasn't going to continue, that it was,
That's
he
right.
had no standing to challenge it until Was there an until though?
No, there wasn't an until.
No.
Okay, maybe I missed a string of emails then, because as I recall, the last thing was, this is moot until the transaction occurs. I did not see
Something
anything
sounds familiar to me about that.
dismissing the complaint or objection or whatever we call it. Can one of you guys find that and send it to me? Because if
Yeah, I'll look
if
for
it's not
that.
an issue anymore, great.
Because I'm pretty sure they said moot, period, not until, or that it was just
I'm trying, I can look it up, I think.
dead in
Well,
the water.
we don't have to sit thinking about it. If I could remember the attorney.
So Seth, at the last meeting,
Yes.
yes, you said you were gonna look into.
Into audio, and my life became rather more complicated this
Yeah.
last, so I haven't had a chance. If we can table it until the next time. Maybe,
Okay,
maybe in August.
or September.
Yeah, or September possibly.
Yes.
My mea culpa, but I haven't had a chance to do that.
Okay, so Policy Advisory Committee and Bylaw Committee.
Similar for me on that front. We did not meet this month. My
Okay.
committee.
Any
Yeah.
volunteers for people who want to go on those committees?
I haven't spoken with anyone. Did Ken?
No, I meant between
Oh.
you. We have to have,
Oh, meaning we have to redo that, don't we? That's right. I apologize. Just, I would,
want to stay on Policy
I'll do,
Advisory? Or-
yeah, I'll continue the Policy Advisory Committee. I don't mind.
I'll stay on the bylaws committee. I'm fine with that. Do people need to be reappointed to those committees, or?
No, they have been.
I can.
By basically, it's the same group as last year. Ken did that on his way out.
Okay,
The
great.
moderator appoints the members of the public. And don't think I've heard yet from the water department. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I haven't. So, Mr. Eager. You're muted.
Yes,
Yes, Mr. Eager, would you like to continue on as the clerk for the Katuitt Fire District?
yes,
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
And I suppose I need to ask the treasurer if he wishes to continue on as treasurer of the Katuitt Fire District.
Well, we're lucky that he does. Do you?
Thank you. Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now we need an election for the chair of the committee.
Fran, do you still want to be chair of the committee? This committee?
I can do it. That's not a problem.
Mark, do you want to be chair of the committee?
I wouldn't move that Fran be chair of the committee.
You moved, so I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay. Anything else?
I was just looking at that chain of emails about what you mentioned about Carl Grissetti's
Yeah,
petition. And I think I've zeroed in on it. I know that you may, well, maybe we could just do this next time. It's a long one. But his protest was based on the fact that we continued our contract with whatever the name of what the name of that organization is, whoever whatever they were, the guys.
after the approval of the Attorney General.
Right, and they said that his petition was based on the fact that we had not put out an RFP we had just continued it, right?
Right,
Instead, it's in light of these facts, I do not think that a bid protest hearing is required since there are no facts that are in dispute. The only issue is the proper interpretation of the legal phrase continued services when there is no need to gather more facts. In addition to what has already been submitted, we do not hold hearings. Instead, we rely on a party's legal arguments. Please see the proposal or please the description of the bid process, protest process at, and so on and so on. I think it ended there, didn't it?
Yeah,
And so I think that was an end to it. They said that it wasn't a complaint and it wasn't a properly formulated complaint to the bid process protest.
right.
That's
Do me a
It's a
favor, can you
Deborah-
just send me that chain?
I can send it to you. Deborah Anderson, this might have been before you were on the committee. This was June.
No,
wasn't
I think this is the one that I'm referring to, but I recall having a completely, no.
it? Well, you're the lawyer. You'll have to look at it and tell me what you think. I'm just sifting through it. Deborah Anderson was her name. I'll forward it to you.
Yeah, let me make sure it's the same chain and then
All right, let's see.
maybe I just misinterpreted it the first time around.
Seth, could you send that
To
to
you
me
as
as
well?
well?
Sure.
Yes.
If I can figure out how to do it, I'll do it. Forward. I'm not very good with, okay, here we go. Do you want it too, Fran? You already have it?
Sure, yeah, but you saved me the time of searching for it.
There you go. All right. Prince, Parks, Ray Perone, Mark Finch. All right. You should get it. If this is the correct one, I believe it is, though. I feel like they dropped it. They said they didn't have grounds. It was improperly.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pertinent protest. Anyway, that's that.
All right,
Okay, so barring any changes from the governor between now and July 15th, we will be back at Freedom Hall live for our next meeting.
So I really guess I should have found out about the recording stuff before.
That's okay, don't worry about it. But that's when the Zoom meetings end. As of right now, people are working on, seeing if they can continue them or, have some people Zoom in and other people, in public.
So will then it become in a way illegal to participate in the meeting via Zoom if there's no alteration to the
No,
open meeting law?
no, because we passed, maybe, I don't know, a very long time ago, we passed a resolution that was necessary for people to telephone in.
I see.
So people can still, if you're in Florida on vacation,
Right.
you can join in for a meeting.
I see.
So that, I'll let you know the date. So if that's it, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in
Seconded.
favor?
What about public comment? Second public
Oh,
comment?
Sorry, okay, go ahead, sorry.
Uh,
Carol, you're muted.
Sorry, now, how about now?
You're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Carol Zace, 86 Putnam Avenue. I wanted to say thank you for the history on how the library acquired their funding, but would love to know what is the process if the Historic Commission decides to go ahead and ask the district? Is it get signatures and a warrant article together, or is there a different process?
It would be a warrant article.
Okay. And I don't think it would be a slippery slope. It hasn't been a slippery slope since 1950, so who knows what it will be.
Well,
And,
you have
and
to
the
you have to
Historic
remember,
Society is-
that, the library, the Historical Society, and all the other nonprofits in the village have multiple opportunities to, request funds, get grants, and that just didn't exist in 1950. So
And yet the
you know, I
library
have,
is still getting funding, which I have no problem with. And I just would like the historic commission, if they choose to, I'm just doing due diligence for them. But they do have a need, so.
I'm sure that, I'm sure they
and
have a
can show
need,
that.
and, but I don't think that, I think taxpayer dollars going to the library is very different than taxpayer dollars going to the historical commission, historic society. You
Yeah,
know,
and that may be the case that the village votes. I would rather take it to a vote than just have one opinion.
okey-doke.
And I just heard about the video. I hope that you guys will continue to find a process. And Seth, I'm happy to help out in any way, shape, or form to make that work. Because it's
Absolutely.
so, you know, you guys aren't difficult to understand from an audio, but when a board is all men, it's really hard to hear who is speaking. So having the video is just really helpful. So thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice
Thank you.
4th,
Good
everybody.
evening, stay dry.
Yep. See y'all soon.